starting a new recording now, which we have to do every 4 hours anyway. But this is also an opportunity. This will literally be a separate YouTube video starting right here. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. Second installment of today's Solution Club at the beginning of the new world. Just had to put in that pitch for the title. Okay, back to it. So this is really a good opportunity for us to take a fresh and talk about the it. I'm getting feedback. Hey, Melissa, sweetheart, could you do me a favor and mute your microphone? I'm just trying to identify where the feedback is coming from. Okay, so the question is, what is the it? Let's define the it. Well, what it am I referring to? The Facebook page that Cesare just created and that he's inviting us all to co-create with him, called Zoom Collective Intelligence Public Forum. And I'm just going to draft some stuff on the whiteboard since I have the microphone, and I really want this to be communicated on this recording. Now that we're starting a new one, is in my understanding of your creation, that's now our co-creation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for offering it to us all as a co-creation.
You inspired it. Really, I just articulated what you guys have been talking about this whole time. So,
okay, I accepted, and thank you for that. So is basically a hub on Facebook, a place to go to find, almost like with a little index or something, or a calendar, whatever, but through whatever means, find and be able to easily discover the meetings that are happening on Zoom that are either about collective intelligence or are using collective intelligence for some end, for example, stopping the coronavirus. And I would just add to that, in addition to being like a calendar or an index of these different Zoom meetings that are happening, that it also be, that it also have some of, basically some of the other basic Facebook features, like essentially being a default discussion forum, or there being an open space for people to comment and discuss on different topics that are raised there. So, basic Facebook features of a Facebook group. But it's really one of its main functions, if not its main function, is to be essentially a directory of these various Zoom meetings, again, either on collective intelligence or using collective intelligence. Anyway, that's just kind of my initial synthesis at this point. Cesare and others, please jump in, and let's keep the baton moving so we make our point and move on, but let the point be on it. What is it? Or what do we want it to be? What do we want its goal to be, or goals, right? What is its purpose? What is its essence? What are our desired outcomes, etc.? Anyway, that's where I'm at. Going on mute. I love these meetings. Just wanted to throw that in. Going on mute.
well, I just want to say that you said everything that I was thinking. So that's no comment. My comment is no comment. So.
No comment, but in a complimentary way. I got it. Thank you.
Are we asking basically what is the culture of the Facebook group?
That's a part of it. That's a part of the it. But I would say even before talking about its culture, I want to talk about it just at a very fundamental, what is it? What's its purpose? What's it in the world to achieve? And so that's why I started with a directory, an index, a calendar, you know, a whatever, right, form of all the Zoom meetings that are out there that are on these general topics, which is still pretty broad. I think giving it that collective intelligence focus is a really good thing, right? And for me, that could mean two things fundamentally, maybe more, but one of them is, what is collective intelligence? Let's co-create it. You know, let's create this new social network of actual conversations, or whatever we end up calling it, that will dethrone Facebook. Not that our objective is to dethrone Facebook, but it'll simply be so big and so powerful, and so useful that, and so not into messing with people or getting their money, that it will just become the thing that people love to go to. So anyway, I hope that helps.
Yeah, because in my head, I just keep going back to the why. Why is this essential? Why is this in a language outside of like the technology? Why is your heart being called to create this? Why are all our hearts being called to this meeting in this time and space to discuss this? There's a synchronicity and there's a resonance in this space. This is beyond a sacred space. This is a very safe space. And I think that the reason why it becomes this very fertile ground is because we find it to be so safe that we become vulnerable. And we open up slowly and gently. The safer we feel, we start opening up our hearts to this space and start sharing a little bit more until we get to this space where now we're meeting each other where we are, and we're creating resonance. We're amplifying our energy. We're amplifying ourselves when we're here. So what is the why this even birthed itself within you, Cesare? Like, that's where I think people like me would respond more, because so much of the technological talk, maybe I feel is way outside of me, but I feel drawn. I listen to you. I can feel your passion. I think you have a great sense of humor. I find you funny. Like, it's entertaining to have him in the meetings, even though we seem like we're on different ends of the spectrum. I mean, it's such a joyful interchange. So then what is it that's bringing all of our different personalities and gifts and attributes and experiences to this space to co-create this? That's where my mind keeps going.
It's almost like we're a harmonic convergence of individuals.
Beautiful, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. For me, the why, there's really two parts to the why. The first part is so that we can come together. All right, why are we going to come together? To make music, to heal Mother Earth, to heal, to save, and to ongoingly protect all life on Earth, the full spectrum of all the diversity of life on Earth, all of it. Those are, for me, that's what comes to me. But really, the big why is really an ongoing conversation. And in fact, let's have a series of conversations called the Big Why. I mean, why not? Okay, the Big Why. And let it be a conversation. It can start there, or it can start somewhere else, right? It doesn't have to build on what I said. What do you say, right? It's a conversation, after all. Anyway, so the Big Why is anyway, I love it. I'm going to go on mute.
But it seems that then leads to the big how, and what we all already agreed on is the how is we all agree that our mission is to raise consciousness. All our mission is to be in truth and authenticity and fact. And that's where we're all about raising consciousness, and we all bring our different gifts to this space to say, this is how I help raise consciousness. Hi, Denise.
Yeah, speaking of the divine feminine, Denise in the house. Welcome back, Denise. Your microphone's on mute, and when you unmute it, make sure that it's right close to your mouth so we can hear you loud and clear. Love to hear from you. How are you, Denise? Sister?
Well, hello there, everyone. I've got my headset on today. That other mic wasn't working, but so good to see you. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I had some other meetings. Definitely working with a bunch of collectives around the world, and it's all super exciting. So I just wanted to tap in with you guys for a few moments, see what's going on, where you're at, and I have another meeting in a half an hour or so, but then I can come back on again. So yeah, I just wanted to check in, see what's going on. Love to hear from you.
Oh my goodness, awesome. Well, I'll be happy to offer up a little bit of a synthesis. You couldn't have come at a better moment, and we are recording, of course, with intent to publish, yada yada. I just want to make sure you're clear on that. Okay, and as usual, and so where we're at is we're now co-creating a Facebook page
Oh, cool.
that's all about bringing together into a big virtual network all of the Zoom video conferences like this one and like many others that you're participating in. Yeah, you've arrived at the right and perfect moment, my long lost sister.
Okay.
Here's what it is. Pardon me? What's that?
Let's hide my name. I have the wrong name up here. That's the real me. Let me hide.
All righty.
Only for some to know. Here we go.
Cool. Awesome. Anyway, so what do I mean by Zoom video conferences like this one? You know, what's the common thread? And so for me, and I just started to offer an answer of what that is, that and this is my own personal answer. Everybody out with your own personal answers, and let's see what kind of synthesis we can agglomerate together, right? Okay. So my answer, to be followed by yours, Denise, Jackie, Melissa, etc. My answer is that that there's really two big topic spaces that we're exploring and co-creating together. One is collective intelligence itself as a thing and as a big hyper object and as a space, etc., collective intelligence. And then the other is the application of collective intelligence to fill in the blank, whether you're applying collective intelligence to stop the coronavirus or create DIY ventilators or to stop planetary overheating with reflectivity and SRM and whatever the it is that you're applying it to, great. You know, both of those are totally welcome. And then related to all this as a fundamental is the big why, right? And that's both a conversation within this space. And again, I'll offer my personal answer to be followed by yours and yours and yours. My personal answer to the big why is a two-part answer. Kaboom. Part one, so that we can come together. Look at how we're together and connected. That if we were emailing each other back and forth for months, we wouldn't get a fraction of this kind of connection.
Right.
So to bring us all together, to do what? That's the second part, is to save life on Earth, to heal life on Earth, and to ongoingly protect life on Earth for all time that we can possibly influence. And as a matter of course of becoming the caretaker species to do all this protecting, healing, and saving, right? We ourselves transform and undergo humanity's phase shift, to point to Daniel Schmachtenberger. We ourselves transform, right? To a new phase, a new modality. Instead of being a species consisting of 8 billion individuals, we're a species consisting of one united humanity. And dare I extend that to one life, one Mother Earth, and why not one universe, so that when we meet up with the green aliens, we start doing the boogie dance with them and there was any social distancing. So, and so anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to intentionally mute myself so we can hear from you and you and you and you and you. Go for it, Denise, Jackie, We're in a great conversation here. Jump in.
Jamin, can you say the first part again, and then when it's ready for the blank?
Yes, the first part of what is the it? What are we creating here?
Mm-hmm.
And it is, and here we're actually blurring the lines between the Facebook page and the Zoom video conferences, which are essentially the subject of the Facebook page. But the what is two things. Well, there's two topics, and then there's two parts to the why. So the two topics are collective intelligence as a thing, and then the application of collective intelligence to fill in the blank. That's the thing, that's the it. And then the why, there's two parts to the why. One, bring us all together in the super deep, hyper-connected way. For what? Then the answer to for what is to save, heal, and protect life, and to transform ourselves in the process. I mean, transforming ourselves is really a derivative. It's not about us. It's about saving the diversity. It's about the otters. It's about the whales. It's about, you know,
well, then could we say then the collective intelligence is to support and facilitate the greatest transformation in human history, which is what Sailesh talks about, the 7 core shifts. Because in order to get to the point where we are not just the humans, where we are all one, humanity must go through the transformation, that evolution. We must transform ourselves and the great awakening and prepare ourselves for the great remembering of who we are as one life on Mother Earth. So to me, it's beautiful to talk about the greatest transformation, the collective intelligence. That's what we're coming here to do, is to facilitate the greatest transformation in human history. That's the only way we are going to reconnect.
Oh, sister, can you tell me the seven what's of Sailesh? Can you tell me what that is again?
Oh, the 7 core shifts. So Sailesh, Dr. Rao, our vision of Vegan World 2026 is more than just veganism. Veganism is the platform, is the foundation, right? But it is about humanity making these shifts, and it's and I don't have them memorized, and I should, that's a failure of me. But it's about really talking about the normalized nonviolence that we have, and transitioning to normalized nonviolence. Our currency system has to transition to one of service instead of one that's about oppression and money. So there's 7 shifts that we have to make on how we perceive ourselves, our interconnectedness, how we see the planet, how we see currency and money and commodification of beings. All of that has to change. And so he puts it in the 7 core shifts on his website, on the Vegan World 2026 at climatehealers.org, as really the fundamental evolution that is happening in humanity, where we're transitioning from the caterpillar into the butterfly.
Can you tell me the website really quick? I want to look, have it up here.
Oh yeah, it's climatehealers.org.
Nolan posted it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. I think that's important and cool to know. Basically, that's really interesting that it's 7. I've been working with the sacred number of 7 in multiple ways. There's all kinds and there's different collectives working with 7 in different ways. I was a part of a collective that was working with the 7 grandfather teachings of the Ojibwe for the dream catcher. And then there's also, I know I'm working with another collective who is working with the 7 grandmothers of some other thing. I can't remember the name of it. And then I personally was writing a story about 7 women dreaming together 13 years ago. Like, I was writing this story, and it's just coming now because of the magic 7. I have a friend who's a drum keeper and makes drums and helps people drum for life. And he's doing this, it's called the 7 sacred ways, So NoMap, I'm talking with, Brett, he has the 7 synergy points of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And so all of these different systems are coming together to create like the super intelligence of a system that we can actually work with for humanity. And I think a lot of us are key holders and torch bearers. We hold keys that we can put in, like, oh wait, this goes into that. It's like a puzzle of the wholeness. And one of the the teachings that I was learning, the Native American teachings, they come up. They know they had prophecies of this time, of the people coming together, of the rainbow tribes all over the world coming together to create a whole experience again. And they keep on talking about the circle of life. And the circle of life being, it's time for us to return to the circle of life, some say, or some say mend the circle of life. And the circle of life is where everyone and everything is a part of the circle of life, and all life matters, and we care for it. So that's where we're returning to, because we, in our own circles and our own centers, have been fragmented by a lot of different societal expectations, suppression, repression, depression. All of that is linked, and we're, as a humanity, saying no. I'm not willing to be depressed anymore, to not recognize what's going on in my heart, nor to you know, not listen to what my voice, my inner voice says, what my heart says, what my circuitry says. So that's the evolution of humanity and the super intelligence. Some of us are being bridgers. I think I'm one of the bridgers that can help. Okay, that key, this collective, that collective. But there's some people who are super duper like, this is my point. I'm a programmer and I understand what you're saying and I want to understand more, but I'm completely a programmer, you know, or I'm a designer. And so that's the super collective intelligence. Is it's more about, it's not about what nation you're from, what color you are, or anything. It's about what your passion is and what your true capabilities are. Because if you're passionate about it, your heart is going, yay, yay! You're gleeful, and you want to add to the circle, and you want to be seen. So the number one thing about being seen is understanding that everyone has a capability that is different from the other. And when we start recognizing and appreciating the people's capabilities, and no, that's not mine, and yes, that's yours. That's where sovereignty comes in, because we stand up for our right to be ourselves, to be our truth, to be what our own circuitry says, this is what I am. But where are we pivoting from as a single person? Are you pivoting from that person's idea or that, you know, cultural moire, or are you pivoting from your spirited center of self? And where is that, and where does that come from? And can you check from that system within yourself? So we're creating systems, but we must check with our own systems. Is my system online with my own self, my resonance? And from there, can I then connect in that resonance system with others? And so that's where we're happily coming together, because when we're in resonance, we feel good and we're thriving and we're creating what we love. This is what we want for Earth, right? This is what we want for each other. This is what we want for ourselves. And this is what we can support in each other. Yay! So, yeah. So we've all been on a journey, and it's no surprise that, hey, we have to come together virtually now. So I'm stoked, because I've been in my loner spaceship suit by myself, meditating with this cosmos and like my heart, and, you know, deepening from the inner nautical experience within, but also reaching out, like, please, may I connect with my family on this earth who have the same vision as me, so that we can create realities that we love, that we can truly live an enchanted life experience. So I'm so excited. I'm talking to myself, a lot of different other collectives, and we're finding each other. And the number one thing is that we have our own personal check system within our own vehicles. Is this coming from my heart, from my spirit of thriving, from caring for myself and those around me? Because if you don't care for yourself, then you can't care for those around you. We've all recognized that, and we're learning to be able to recognize our system, which is the technology of our personal selves. And how do we resonate in a high resolution being? And that's the next level. And that's why technology is so exciting, because it reminds us of how we can make ourselves, how we can design ourselves, and how we can design our interactions and our new economic exchanges, which is based on human value. And our human value has been taken from us from other modalities of economic exchanges. And it's just a revolution of how we can reignite what exchange means to us in hopefully loving manners. Because I love me, so I love you, so let's love each other. Woo, woo, woo. But I love the Facebook group. I've been talking to a few other collectives, and I'm wondering how we're going to merge, if I should invite them in, if they want to, what should I say, what do they want to share? People are still on I was talking to Dubai last night, I was talking to the UK today, I was talking to Belgium yesterday, I've been talking to Holland. There's things happening on the European hacker movement, and they're based on heart and love, and so that's really great. The whole world is seeing this. So it's just about like, who can plug in what, how are we going to, what are your skills, what do you know about yourself, what are your, and being honest with what our capabilities and our incapabilities are. Like, I have certain issues with certain things, and I'm sure each one of us do. It's just having patience, but also being action oriented, you know. So we've got some exciting creations to do, and I really hope, and I know that we're finding each other and coming together in ways that are so good. So let's just keep on activating the thriving and recognizing it within ourselves, recognizing when our consciousness is in pain, that's actually old network information that we are able to shift, and it's merely a trigger of the change that's potential. And remembering why the pain is there is there's usually a core reason that it's actually seeking to become other than the pain. So finding that core of what does this pain, what is it indicating to me? Oh, it wants me to feel good. How do I do that? Well, I'm pissed off that person. Oh, wait a minute, I can let go of that. Like, it's time to let go of all that kind of stuff, and just be like, you know what, whether that person did that to me, they had something weird going on, whatever. I don't want to keep on playing this in my system because it's not my media. I'm changing my diet of how I interact with myself energetically, and thus others, which are our bonds, our agreements, and our contracts. And that's where smart contracts and technology are weaving a new economic system of human value of exchange. Thank you for loving it. You don't even know how many people I've been talking to are like, what are you talking about? You're crazy, for so many years. So I appreciate it.
Denise,
We speak the same language.
yeah.
We all do.
So good. I'm looking for you.
Denise, sister, you are so welcome here. Cesare has his hand up, but because of time criticality, I'm going to take a couple minutes and give a couple short answers to your pointed question, Denise, which is a great one. How do we come together? How do we do this, etc.? So number one, would someone be good enough to paste into the chat window for everyone the link to the Facebook group that Cesare has created based on what we've all been talking about here? That's number one. Please share that broadly, Denise, and encourage and invite everyone to join. And actually, I'll let Cesare speak in a minute about that. But that becomes like a central hub, a central bulletin board. Here's all the meetings that are happening. Knock yourselves out. They're open to everyone, et cetera, okay? And then number two, what can we do to get together is, once we've gone through that phase one and that we're all playing in this gigantic playground with all these different structures on it and all these different meetings happening within the playground, and we're just like these social butterflies going around sprinkling fairy dust on different meetings, and and others of us hosting meetings. Like, you'll find me in the same meeting for 24 hours at a stretch. That's the block party, right? So once we've done phase one and we've all come together and we're all in the same playground, now let's take the sand of the playground and basically turn it into the most incredible silicon wafer ever conceived. And that would be the technological platform, the cultural platform, the rule set platform, the policy is as regarding data, bots, et cetera, AI, you name it. Let's build the ultimate platform that will, for example, automatically transcribe everything that's said on these meetings, right? Index the transcriptions so that it's all searchable, and so that we can do advanced searches. And so I might be looking for something very, very specific, and boop, oh my goodness, here is Denise Aurora talking about exactly that on this meeting over here. What's the context for that meeting? Oh, it's a weekly meeting on transcendental, existential, metaphysicalism, whatever. Okay, I'm just giving you an example, okay? So I would then put on my calendar to go to that next weekly meeting. Hi, everybody. Hey, Aurora, I loved what you said 2 weeks ago when I read your transcript about this and I rewatched the video. I'd like to talk about that. And you're like, oh my goodness, we're so far beyond that now. Here, let me bring you up to date. I'm like, whoa, great. You know, that's, these are just little micro scenarios, but the bigger picture is what I think I covered last week through sharing slides and all that. Did I go through the exponential progression? But anyway, the bottom line is the platform is key, right? But before we can build the platform, let's come together and figure out who the we is, right? Let's get we together through essentially this very relatively simple combination of Facebook and Zoom, which initially, that amalgamation of those two used in this way, that is the platform for starters. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And there's a Chinese saying, it takes an axe to make another axe. So we'll use that platform to all come together, and then we can co-design and co-create the next generation platform, and so on and so on and so on. And I think we can all see where this is going. Anyway, I'm going to go on mute. Cesare, you've been very patient, and also there are things that you're going to want to say that I've commented on. Go for it, Cesare. And have you two met, Cesare and Denise?
I don't think we spoke directly, but we've been in a discussion before, so it's yeah, maybe we'll get a chance now. What did I want to say? Oh, this is kind of unrelated. I was just thinking about that point somebody was discussing before about this whole idea of speaking. Oh, who was it? Brett. About speaking of yourself in third person, and I was thinking like this group is really elevating things to another level, and I'm thinking maybe we should try to do that as a group, you know, to like speak of ourselves in third person. And it's kind of trippy, and to be honest with you, like I mean, yeah, I actually see the value in that. Like if I was to do it myself in my own life, I mean, for the most part, people would think I'm crazy. So like in most ordinary, people already think I'm crazy enough. Like I don't want to like send off more alarm clocks. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm organizing a political party to take over all the governments. Yeah, and then I'm speaking of myself in third person. Who knows? Maybe that would help. Maybe that would complete the picture for them, and they're like, oh, you know, this guy's from another planet. He's not even human. So what do you expect, right? But I don't know. But no, I don't think I'm ready to venture out and try to do that in normal society yet. But I think in a group of people, well, elevating their consciousness, maybe that would be a good practice to have. But I'm not going to do it alone. Cesare will not start to speak about himself in third person by himself, if y'all know what Cesare means. I just wanted to test it out, but that was a little bit awkward. But yeah, that was just a test. That was just a sample. I'm not saying I'm going to go back to it unless the group thinks it's a good idea, because that might see, because like imagine like when, you know, like okay, like when we have this administrative panel, when we make decisions, if there are some kind of conflicts that we have to moderate in the group, make some collective decisions, and some people come to us, people who are just using the group, who are just basic users, you know, they're just organizing, promoting their events, but they run into some issues and they come in front of the panel, and the panel is just like speaking of themselves in third person. They're going to be like, whoa, where am I? You know, it's like they would be tripping balls if they're like, okay, I think like whatever decision the panel makes is probably the right decision. Like that would just be so much more authoritative, you know, like I don't know, but if that's necessary, maybe it's not necessary, but that might help resolving some conflicts too, potentially. It might make people feel more comfortable in that way. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think we can play with all these different forms and different media, like we've been talking about, different combinations of media. And but one of the kind of ultimate states that you can imagine us getting to, well, at least from this perspective, once we get there, we'll see future further states. But one awesome state is just to imagine that instead of us being drawn together serendipitously, or however we came together, that the system, the platform, using AI and all kinds of cool stuff and vast data sets, would actually do this kind of group matchmaking, you know, based on everything from gene keys to our word stream of everything we've said, to our resume, to our hard drive, whatever we want to expose to the benevolent system, right? And everyone makes their own choices. But the more you expose, the better the system can guide you. And so it'll make these amazing combinations. But then another super cool scenario is that, I mean, let's say, for example, a bunch of microbiologists are working on the vaccine, right? And they're really getting stuck on this one, you know, monomer, elastomer interface, whatever the bleep. I'm just making up words here. And then, but whatever words they use, then hit the database and they find out basically who's the expert in monomer, elastomer, bimodal, whatever the bleep, right? And, you know, some bearded, you know, dude from Switzerland appears in the Zoom video conference. Yes, I understand you need help with the monomer bio. Yeah. We can't figure out how to decompose it and insert this amino acid, but that is simple. I demonstrated that in my paper back in 2002. You must do this and this and this, and problem solved, right? So if you imagine that the development of the vaccine is nothing more and nothing less than a sequence of 1,723 such conversations. First, we have to solve this, and then let's solve this. Then, and for each of those 1,723 conversations, there's a different, you know, A team, crack team, which not because of a certain individual is a genius, but because the combination creates this group genius that's very specific to that very one specific step among the 1,723. As soon as we get the software right for that, and as soon as we make this just phenomenally popular, which it's already becoming among people who are, I'm just going to say, sufficiently dialed in, but that's not to be exclusive. If you want to dial in, come to the block party. You'll get dialed in no time, right? So it's not like, oh, either you got it or you don't. No. It's like, here's kind of a meme I'm coming up with. If you don't get it, stick around, and you will. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go on mute, invite anyone to jump in. Nolan, it'd be great to hear from you. And Denise, you've got the floor always, especially since you're playing such a key butterfly role. In fact, you get a butterfly pass, which means you get to just jump in and talk whenever you want, because you're so, you know, because it takes something to do what you do. And I really want to honor it as kind of a new discipline, a collective intelligence butterfly. You know, eventually there will be bots, which I was about to say compete with, but will actually complement what you're doing, right? So it's like you can just like dispatch, you know, 2,000 bots to go to these 2,000 conversations that the AI has filtered through and says, these are conversations Denise should be in right now. Your bots go out there. Your bots will know what to say, and they'll represent you. They'll even have your face and your laughter and whatever you want them to have. Back to you, Denise.
I was interested in knowing, so we're talking about these systems because I am talking to other people in other nations about these kind of things, and from all over the world, like not a lot of people, but just a few different systems. So I'm interested in knowing to what extent, like, what do we have for making it? What systems do we already have existent? What do we need? You know, like, would the people that I spoke to yesterday be interested in, you know, do they want to take on our stuff? Is this going to be open source? Like, how are we going to do it? This code that this person made over here, this platform that that person made over there, where are we at?
Yeah, so where are we at? Again, back to phase one, phase two. Phase two is let's build the platform. beyond what we have right now. Phase one, let's use what we've got, which is Zoom and Facebook. Again, I point to the Facebook page Cesare created. Let's come together first. Even in this low tech, I laugh when I say that. What could be more high tech than this? But you know, it's low tech relative to what we're going to build. And then once we've come together, let's create not just one series of meetings, but N series of meetings, whatever number of series of meetings that we need to have, spanning the taxonomy of topics of the platform, right? You know, what are the goals of the platform? That's a conversation, right? What are the core scenarios that the platform will support in it to achieve those goals? That's a conversation, right? What kind of database are we going to use? Well, let's bring in the database people. For me, that's very empowering. I love designing databases, so I'll be there, right? And it's amazing. Databases make specific technical requirements in the same way that Cesare's Agora platform makes specific ideas, right? It forces precision, it forces concision, it forces clarity. And anyway, so the database is a whole conversation. Don't get me started. Another thing will be interface. You know, what kind of interface? What are we looking at here? What are we, and so on. And another will be AI. Well, AI is dangerous. Well, guess what? We now have a place where you can come and talk about the dangers of AI. There's there's an AI group, a core group, and then in a repeating kind of fractal-like pattern, whatever is like a big topic can spawn subtopics. So the big topic becomes increasingly like a hub for the subtopics to come and have this pulsating dialectic of let's come together and synthesize and, you know, share what information everyone should know, and then let's divide and conquer. So this is a pulsating dialectic. And so AI is a big topic. The dangers of AI is a subtopic, right? Using AI, using open source AI immediately for some obvious low-hanging fruit scenarios. That's another topic. Hey, we can do this tomorrow. Let's do it. Why not? Well, talk to the dangers people as to why not, right? And so we create these connections, and there will be butterflies that go in between those two localized AI flowers that are right across from each other, and then other kinds of butterflies like yourself, long-range butterflies that go and cross-pollinate amongst, you know, many other groups. So I say step number one, let's all meet up on Facebook, let's coordinate, let's all just post our different meetings, and then encourage more people to be basically like you, Denise, and cross butterfly around. And in fact, maybe you can have a butterfly weekly meeting, a gathering of the butterflies where you as this queen butterfly just kind of teaches your protege butterflies how to be butterflies.
Interesting. It's good to hear. This is a super collective intelligence coming together for sure, because I'm having certain kind of visions on this, and it's not entirely together. And so yeah, I'm already seeing how I can cross-pollinate and not seeing it entirely. I see that the world right now is realizing that the thought of intellectual property and like ownership is a little bit less important than the potential of like, hey, we're gonna lose our lives. Why don't we just like come up with something? And no matter what, who owns what. So I see still some camps are still like, well, it's my camp, I can't tell you about it. And some camps are like, we're coming together, nations, and that. So the hacker collectives that are forming in Europe are really interesting. And they're working on hacking the crisis, and they're from programmers to people, to medical people, to healers and things like that. And I'm not necessarily in it yet, but maybe this collective, our collective, would want to be, or I will talk to one of the leaders of one of the collectives in Europe about how, whether they want to have more collectives in and how they're organizing. They're actually asking me about my organization, because I was bringing in one of the leaders into the organization that I was creating earlier this year, and telling them about ideas of how to organize collectives. And I think a lot of us have ideas, such as Josh and Brett and you, about organizing. And what was her name again? Rachel Raquel. I'm still just learning.
There was Jackie was here earlier.
Jackie. She was saying some really interesting things about systems design. And so, you know, the systems design just must come from thriving and from collaboration in a conscious way. And that's based on thriving. So that's like the human heart pulsing in a coherent way in all our connections. And so there are people creating systems on that level. So yeah, let's see. And I'm going to have another conversation with Costa Rica soon. Someone who's from the U.S. though, but in Costa Rica, who have talked about making conscious platforms or conscious leaders, and there's a lot of people doing that. So I'd be interested to tap in to a lot of these other worlds. What are they creating? I think that there's a lot of different streams coming together right now, and we're one. So let's humanity, let's thrive. Come on, Earth, we've all dreamt about this. Let's do it.
Totally. Your words are just music to our ears. And it's just so exciting to see that this dream is just flourishing all over the place. And it just seems like the obvious next step to bring us all together under one gigantic, into one gigantic bazaar, right? That's self. Pardon me? What's that?
One gigantic global sphere.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, it's just science fiction writers, like you say, have been writing about this for decades, if not centuries. And we've got the technology. Let's do it. So let's start with the first version of the platform. And I love to share this short sequence of images of the evolution of collective superintelligence, the co-evolution of the platform, everything we've been talking about, software-wise, et cetera, and the actual collective intelligence represented by this brain on top of that platform. The more people who join, the greater the collective intelligence grows. And it grows and grows and grows until it doesn't stop growing, but it gets constrained by the platform at some point, because every platform has its limitations. As soon as those constraints are detected, in fact, ideally before it reaches this point of serious constraint, this actual collective intelligence designs and builds the next generation of the platform, which can support a much greater collective intelligence, which in turn can do many great things, including, but certainly not limited to, designing and building the next generation of the platform, which can support a much greater actual collective intelligence, and so on. So with that as the paradigm, the urgency right now is to just stoke that exponential, set it free, set that exponential free. And the best things we can do for it right now are use the platform that we've got. This, one could call it simple. Let it be simple. Sometimes simple is good. The chipmunk seems to agree with me. But this simple combination of Facebook and Zoom, voila, right? We've got the Facebook page. We post our Zoom video conferences to it. We just start posting. Cesare is at work configuring it so that it'll have the right whatever it needs. He knows Facebook infinitely better than I do. And so voila, we all meet up there, and we go around to the different meetings. We all get to know each other. And as we get to know each other, precisely the vision for exactly what we want to create in terms of the platform and in terms of our goals, the refinement of our goals, the development of strategy. What should our strategy be? Should it be to first exponentiate the collective superintelligence, use it like a concentrated laser beam to zap the coronavirus, and then roll out SRM to cool the planet in time before we all go extinct this summer, right? Sounds like a pretty good idea to me. At least then we have the option of continuing life. But anything short of that plan really seems like, no, we've got to cool the planet in time, not just stop exponential planetary overheating, but actually reverse it. And we can do it. We can actually reverse it arbitrarily quickly by deploying enough reflectivity via SRM. More on that, in a separate space, so that I don't take us off this tangent. My main point being, let the rallying cry go out that humanity is coming together to solve our most urgent problems, including Corona, including abrupt climate change. And the place that we're coming together to do that is the Facebook page that Cesare just created, the Zoom Collective Intelligence Public Forum. Sample around, check out the different meetings, get to know the community, help grow the community, bring everyone you know. And within the myriad conversations that will be organically emerging and growing, will be conversations precisely on the platform. Now, there's two ways that we do that. One is by creating dedicated series of conversations just on the platform. The other is by bringing the conversation of the platform into venues such as the Solution Club and the Block Party, which we do. But anyway, in both of those modalities, both in kind of big general meetings as well as in focus meetings, we co-create what kind of platform do we really want to build and why, what are our aims, what's our philosophy. Let's have it out, let's have the conversation. But let's not get too hung up on the next iteration of the platform, because there will be iterations after that, as my series of slides showed, and I'm going to go on mute.
It seems to me that there's going to be several platforms, because there's different needs. Like, I'm very particular about what kind of platform that I want to participate in. As much as I love the science of the earth being taken care of, I have already dipped into that and realized that that's not my talent. My talent is really working with the human body system. So my platform would be the collective superintelligence of the human body systems, or the butterflies or something. But so that's the first thing that's going to show up, is that there's going to be different platforms, and maybe the platform itself is a foundational space of multiple platforms. And there are people already building platforms, mixed reality, next generation kind of spatial web kind of stuff. So to what extent we can hook in with that, and when they're ready. I know that one platform that's being created is, they're talking about rolling out application capabilities to add applications to it in June. But it's one of those things where they said December before, and so yeah, I think it's key to have the collectives come together for what our interests of where we can help the earth, because some of us just can't do certain things, and we need to know in our hearts, and our souls and our capabilities, and that's another thing, is like helping people discover what that is. So I'm on that side of it. Like, you don't know, well, look inside. Let me teach you how to look inside. Oh, you can't feel how to look, breathe, like that kind of stuff. So I think that's very important, and that's human systems, which people say actually affect the earthly system and the planetary system. So I'm into the experiment and checking it out. How many humans can we get online with their heart coherence, and see if we actually can affect the earth experience.
Beautiful, love it. And in terms of all the different platforms, absolutely, there's gazillions. What we're really talking about is connecting different platforms together in powerful combinations of ways, but in ways where the it is really the connection of the think of it as kind of a universal connector. We'll probably create a dashboard for it, but all that is optional, right? If you just want to live on Facebook and just be in those conversations on Facebook, go for it, right? Or if you just want to go to the Zoom video conferences that to go to, and you're not interested in seeing or participating in a broader directory, more power to you, right? If you just want to hang out on Reddit, go for it. But what we're doing is we're connecting all these different platforms, as well as homegrown platforms that individuals or groups within the community are offering up, like Cesari's Agora platform, like Dharmendra's meditation platform. Let a million platforms bloom, as far as I'm concerned. Use whichever ones you want, and we'll be creating kind of some core scenarios which really depend upon the use of, say, seven different core platforms together in a very magical way. Those are, Zoom, Otter AI for transcription, Google for indexing, all free, right? And applied in this very specific way. And if you want to play with that pattern, it's super powerful. There's a bunch of other people playing with it. I think you'll really love it. But, it's all optional. Again, if you just want to hang out on Facebook, go for it. More power to you, right? And in fact, the specialists are a really important part of the ecosystem. The people who just live and breathe Facebook, they're super valuable. Same as the ones who live and breathe Reddit. So we're kind of creating not a generalist class, but a very a class of, well, not class, but a community of humans who are into this video conference thing and into participating in this full-blown collective superintelligence set of patterns, right, in this specific way. Basically, as I've articulated before, there's a network of conversations. We're all transparent. We're all broadcasting. We're recording with intent to publish. We're transcribing. We're indexing. We're making it searchable. It's all totally open source. It's all totally open. Not everybody likes to play in such an open way, but for those who do, oh my goodness, we are creating the most incredible, exponentially growing collective superintelligence ever imagined that I've ever heard of. Right? And this is what I do. This is my bread and butter, is collective superintelligence. So if you know of a better way, please tell me, and I'll sing its praises instead of what I am singing currently. I don't care. I got no attachment, no ego. I don't care who owns it. In fact, I'd prefer it be decentralized and owned by no one. But the important thing is that we do it, that we come together, that we manifest exponentially growing collective superintelligence. We are so close to death right now. We need to go overkill on intelligence, zap the virus, cool the planet, stop the omnicide, stop the killing. We need to all go vegan. We need to all peace out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the platform for achieving that, for coming up with all those solutions, whether they're yoga, meditation solutions, or planetary scale solar radiation management solutions. All of the above are needed. Going on mute.
I was going to say, like, you're definitely pointing out the parts that are really important that you're citing on. So I think that one of the things that would be really important is to gather the information of, like, okay, I love all of this, but what I like, heart coherence mind, like heart coherence, humanity online with themselves so that they can be online with each other. So just like having this written out and organized in ways, yeah, let's bring it on, And then, there's the collectives, and maybe the 7 collectives of the 7 ideals of making a thriving Earth. Medicine, technology of joining the collectives, individuals, heart medicine, that heart, like energy medicine versus actual like chemical medicine, and then technology, and then earth technology, biosphere things. So those are 4. What are some 3 more? Let's have 7 to make this. Music, dance.
Yeah, totally. Well,
Rhyme.
actually, earlier we were talking about creating memes, and just myriad different memes, and then letting the most popular memes bubble to the top, and looking for whatever number, 7, the magic number 7 plus or minus 2, different combination of memes that really begins to tell the new story for humanity, right?
Yes.
As one vehicle. Anyway, there's so many different vehicles. That's the cool thing, and that's partly why I'm such a big believer in the plurality of media. Let the poets meet in Poetry Slam. Let the philosophers meet in Philosopher Slam. Let the programmers meet on GitHub and fork off different versions of software until they find the right one. Whatever, right? All the above.
I actually invited my friend in who's here, and he's growing a garden so that we can have food in case we need to. The big thing, so farmers, like we need different kinds of, there's a lot of visionaries who've been seeing that there's going to be farms in every house and everyone's going to know how to be connected to the earth again. So that's another one. But I think he might be out. That's why I was saying that I only had a short time, because I know how to farm, and I was going to help him with the soil. So I'm not a great farmer. That's why I'm like, bring me back to the technology. But I do know how to make soil and make good soil so that things will grow. So I'm going to go check in on him and see if he wants to join the conversation, because he's also a very interesting technologist, has a lot of history in that, and that's why we're good friends, and he's helping support me here so I can participate in these conversations right now. and he's very interested in this stuff. He's also been, his name is Steve, and he's been working with a Burning Man camp called Red Lightning for the last 5-6 years or something, and then this year was Red Lightning Blue Thunder, and I suggested he go with that camp because I told him that was the most sacred camp I could find in Burning Man. And so he did, and he became a big part of it. And they're big into the Native American folklore, prophecies, the healing of the people through connecting to Earth and tribal community. And so we learned a lot by participating in that. And because he also has a technology background, he probably has a lot of knowledge of how to bring systems together and things like that. So I'm just gonna go check in on him to see if he wants to join in on the conversation or plow the ground. So I'll put myself on mute and let you guys do what you need to do. But I'll let you know if I'm gonna be gone. So thank you so much for the moment of checking in. I just want to say one more thing is the point about action. I think as a facilitators and leaders, we really want to find a way to inspire people to action. And I think people are inspired by the coronavirus. And I think it's finding how to activate the action in a way that's efficient. And that includes checking into your own systems of what's working. So yeah, if anyone needs any help with that, I'm here. I do help people go into the dream state of the inner world, the subconscious, which is 95% of our life is subconscious. And I think we can become more conscious and more in control of that, and called designing ourselves and architecting ourselves and redreaming our reality through ourselves and interwoven through each other. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to go connect in with my friend and I'll be back.
Awesome, Denise. Thank you so much. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Wow, my goodness. Incredible. Whew. Look at how quickly this is evolving. And you know what? This is the exponential. Because the reality is what we're now doing is we're upgrading the platform by essentially upcycling Facebook in the way that Cesare is doing. We are going from one platform to the next platform. We're making a platform jump today. This is huge, actually, because prior to today, the older platform was Zoom combined with email. And that was fine. That had its place, and it won't go away. I'll still email people every week, but it's time to make the upgrade to Facebook, right? In exactly this way. So this is the exponential. It's here. Tighten your seatbelts. They should definitely be fastened by now. And now it's the time to tighten them, because we're going to experience some serious G's. That's my prediction. I mean, the very existence of these amazing butterflies like Denise proves the point that the network is coming together, right? This is happening. It's undeniable. It's happening whether we exist or not. And that's one of the cool things about it. Just like the design of the original military internet itself, right, was that it be totally fault tolerant. And you can take out whole countries and the internet still exists, still works. We're no longer vital to this. I say it with a tear in my eye, but with a much bigger smile than my tears, because it means that humanity is making the transition, the phase shift. It's happening now. I'm going to go on mute, and there's a couple of cool things people have typed into the chat. Dharmendra, we'll see you soon. Oops, Dharmendra had to pop out. And Dharmendra wrote, loving today's progression. See you all soon. And then Emery writes, we need to render Zoom meetings into YouTube videos so we can more easily communicate and share the information. Use of playlists, absolutely. Give people access to the most meaningful content, absolutely. And then post to Facebook group and pages. Couldn't agree more. That's it. Yeah, we've already been on YouTube as well. So we've been doing Zoom, YouTube, and email has been our magical combination. Now that we're upgrading Hey, love. Now that we're upgrading to include Facebook, and I'm sure Reddit won't be far behind, and Agora integration is happening, et cetera, et cetera.
What I'm really curious about is, I mean, it'd be awesome if technology like this already existed, and maybe it does, but I'm picturing like these long form conversations that we have. Ideally, there's one reference video or page or whatever. It's all grouped. We had multiple recordings today at the social club, but it would be so cool to, and this would be useful even outside of our meetings, but say you're watching like a 20-minute YouTube video of this meeting, or it's a TED Talk or whatever, and there's like this very specific segment that like there's a synthesis that just nails it. There should be a really easy way to just pull out that segment without having to like download the video and go into a video editor and chop it off and then upload it as a completely separate thing. Like, we should be able to have the whole thing and then zoom into a little fragment of it and then make a little comment, you know, a summary of what that fragment means, or a title for it, and then a description, and then that can be shared easily. And every time somebody goes to that fragment, they're also going to the larger conversation and context around that fragment. So I think Jamin gets what I'm saying for sure.
Totally love it. Yeah, and actually being able to define any fragment, name it, you know, and then reference it with a hyperlink, without having to do any video editing. Just here's the start point, there's the end point, poof, that's it. I mean, with YouTube, for years they've had the very useful feature of creating a link to a specific starting point within a video. That's kind of half the battle, actually. The other half is creating an end point. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. So that's kind of a hack to create what you're talking about. But anyway, back to you, Nolan.
Well, Stephanie was saying kind of like SoundCloud. They have comments that I think what Stephanie's talking about is that you can post comments at specific times, and then as you're listening, it'll actually pop up different comments at different points in the track, which is kind of cool. I definitely think we need some kind of annotation system like that. For these meetings, I've been basically doing exactly that. Like I just have I'm just taking the timestamps, of whenever we started recording, and it's like down to the second. So, and then I've just been, especially today, I decided to just go like all out, and I'm pretty much just annotating the meeting as it's going along. And I think that, like, the problem is if I'm the only person doing that, I'm going to highlight things that are highlights for me, not necessarily highlights for everybody else. So ideally, we have some way of doing that, getting everyone's input on that. Maybe multiple people are annotating, or there's one person that's really good at annotating, and then afterwards there's like some sort of comment voting system that goes on top of those annotations. But all of this is just to salvage the really juicy parts of the meetings we have while we're in the meetings, instead of going back and spending a bunch of time afterwards going back through a meeting. Yeah, because we produce so much content. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
we're just beckoning for this platform that'll facilitate all these scenarios. It's just so urgent. Yeah.
the cool part about the annotation is that well, it's a second layer of conversation that gives, it's like a label. So when training artificial intelligence on like, let's say you wanted to train artificial intelligence to recognize chairs, then what you would do is you feed it and you want it to recognize pictures of chairs. So you feed it a bunch of pictures with the label. Are you okay, Jamin?
Well, I'm playing this game with this chipmunk. I'm tracking what you're saying, but every time he squeals, I look at him, and he's like squealing and getting my attention. It's kind of this cross-species dialogue that's going on. But
Okay.
sorry to distract.
I want to make sure. you look like you're on a loop. It's tripping me out a little bit. But okay, so if you're training it and you want an AI to be able to recognize whatever object, you feed it a bunch of pictures of not that object, like a random mismatch, and feed it pictures of specifically that object, pictures with a label. And so what the annotations end up functioning as are like labels for pieces of conversation. Like already the words people are using are labels in some sense, but if you take like, you know, Jamin goes off for 5 minutes about the entire vision of collective intelligence, well, there's a lot more in there than how I just described it, but I could easily annotate that as the description. And then like those, you know, it's a way of condensing the content and for labeling segments that the AI can then spot in other contexts, the same way that we train it to recognize pictures of chairs or whatever. So that's another reason why that whole layer on top of it of commenting, timestamping, annotating is really important.
Love it. Awesome.
Cool. I'm listening in. This is Denise, but I'm making lunch too, and we're about to go garden. I like listening in on this part of the conversation too, for because I have worked with a little bit of artificial intelligence, just a little bit, and thinking about how that would work. And so it's good to be in on the hearing the tech side.
Awesome. It's good to have you. I really appreciate the energy you bring to the space.
Awesome, thank you. I was actually working with AI ML. I just like the idea of working with how words and phrases work together, and how we can the art of language, and how we can use it within ourselves, but also how you can actually detect what's happening in the emotional field or in the reality field through artificial intelligence. That's a really interesting subject for sure.
Yeah, the potential is just insane, right? And if you couple it with the urgent need to come up with solution after solution, or component of solution after component of solution, to ultimately stop the coronavirus, cool the planet, stop the destruction, clean up and deacidify the ocean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Into coherent heart.
Pardon me?
Go into coherent heart space.
Yeah, coherent, exactly. Go into coherent heart space. Thank you. You know, I'm an engineer, and I come from a family of engineers, and so it's like, you know, I kind of have a focus that I acknowledge, you know, and you know, I also participate in the meditation sessions, and so I'm definitely branching out from just being this monoculture engineer. Problem, solution, you know, What more is there to life, you know? But anyway, so I am branching out, and thank you for bringing me back to that coherent heart space. Thank you.
And always solution, but the reason why I come from interest in artificial intelligence is for that coherent heart space and for the coherent languaging systems that we have within ourselves, because we have loops that we play because of our childhood, and how we patterned ourselves when we were children. So, and we can repattern our nervous systems and our interactions with life, and what thoughts and loops and feelings are going through our systems. So that's what I'm interested in making. I actually had an idea of creating what I call a super intelligent intelligent system based on languaging. So, you know, I'm very interested in artificial intelligence for us to become more intelligent in how we language and with our own bodies and minds, and how we become in higher resonance, because we can't have higher resolution humanity without a higher resonance and harmony within ourselves and thus each other. The reason why we're not going very far with our technology, and we can't, because we're just going to kill ourselves. So it's time for us to really become into a more resonant individual, so that we connect in a resonant and harmonic way, and thus we can create resonant systems. And that starts with the resonance of the heart. And like, yeah, so artificial intelligence, super intelligence, and how, so I'm interested in making, to put it out there, when we can annotate it and someone can find it, I'm looking for people that are interested in making a system that helps us come into alignment with the multimedia and metamedia of the human system. So, and how we work with the multimedia of the mind, which is the senses and the perspectives, and how it becomes metamedia that we consciously choose, and that we can create systems that are technology oriented with that. And I think it comes from a crowdsourced place, because we're still much more intelligent than artificial intelligence, but we can still train it. And that's where super intelligence comes in, and the collective mind comes in and shares that information. And that's the system that I'm interested in creating.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, and actually, thanks so much, sweetheart. And I kind of lost my thread there, but anyway, go on mute.
I'm gonna get my food, Nolan. Thank you for your input and your thoughts. I was really enjoying that. So
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh my goodness, so excited at what we're right on the cusp of, because what we're doing now is we're bringing the whole community together, and now we can have conversation after conversation to just refine it and just get it really specific, and then get it built, and then voila, off goes the exponential. And with that, we can solve any problem that can physically be solved. We can solve it. That's exciting. The coronavirus is a physical problem. It has a physical solution. Let's get smart enough so that we can find it and deploy it ASAP, get those parts of the economy back and running that need to be vitally, so that we can deploy SRM and cool the planet. Bam, bam, coronavirus, cool the planet. That's the 1-2 punch to create a platform of survivability that we can then build everything else we want to build on. But first we need to survive. So it's really 1, 2, 3. Collective superintelligence, coronavirus, SRM. 1, 2, 3.
I'd like to add my collective intelligence to that in recreating how we language things. And that's the idea of the metamedia, multimedia, future selves. And when we say survive, the idea, the premise is behind it that we potentially will die. So, I mean, that is what's happening. But for us to get beyond that, we need to see the new story fully, and we need to resonate with that in ourselves. Right now, we're resonating with survival, and which has a fear basis of like, actually, we're gonna die. So how do we not die? You know, and that's, you know, the negative, you know, still sending out the negative into the universe. So I agree. Let's survive, but let's thrive. You know, they rhyme. So when we have that new story in our head, like actually I'm going for thriving, it's going for the big goal, the big experience, and sometimes it's a little bit harder to jump into that space. But when we do together, the our circuitry is really gonna be connecting on that level. Right now, the survival thing is like based on the philosophy of survival of the fittest and the Darwinism idea of like how we evolve. A lot of people are saying that that's not necessarily true. And it's also based on how the economic system has created itself or we created it or whatever. So we're going for a new system of thriving, and that includes how we language and how we feel about what we're saying. So when you say survive, like recognize how it feels in your body. Like, are you feeling a little bit like, oh, I can survive, or but then thrive is like, oh, can I do it? Oh, yes, yes, you can. So that's the thing. It's like for a long time I was like, oh, can I really thrive? Can I really have love? And it's been like a long process for me. But now I'm that person that says, yes, we can. And then that the more of us that say it, the more of us are going to be feeling it. The more of us are going to be living it. So, and that's what we're creating systems to thrive. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Denise. Goodness, for speaking the truth. Love it.
I'm going to show you I burnt my toast like 3 times so I could talk to you guys. But it's good. It's the burnt cheese taste.
Good, good. Hmm. I totally agree with everything Denise said about thriving. I'm just kind of self-analyzing why I mentioned survival. And I think one of the reasons is to point out, what is most urgent. Like, this is literally critical for our survival. That's a level of urgency that's higher than, Jamin's need to express himself through crochet, right now, and so anyway, it's just, I'm just, it's that for me is the synthesis. Yes, thriving is what we need to ultimately focus on, but we also need like a tier 1, tier 2. We need to triage things a bit, and so that's why I say let's get the, in terms of a sequence, like so the strategy, if I had to say it in 10 seconds or less, is exponentiate the collective superintelligence. Use that exponentially growing laser beam to take out the coronavirus, and then build out the SRM infrastructure around the planet so that we cool the planet in time. But that's just the first 4 minutes of the James Bond movie. That's not even the movie. That's just, stop the bad guys so that they don't blow up London. And then, meet for martinis. And then the next morning we get the briefing on what the real mission is. The real mission is thriving, right? But we got to get through the first 4 minutes of the James Bond movie successfully, or there ain't going to be no thriving.
Yeah. And that's kind of like you're talking about the phases, but it's also the phases of human mentality. Some people aren't going to get thriving. Like I couldn't get it for a long time. So like, we're talking at the survival kind of spot. And like, I still fluctuate myself like, oh, I have to survive. No, wait, I have to thrive, So getting those points is kind of like how you speak to different audiences about the human value that they're seeking at the moment. And I think a lot of people are seeking to survive at the moment. That's where we're at. So that is a poignant point to keep on. That's still in the context of where we're at. So, but ultimately, yes, thriving. So if we can get there within our own systems, then we can flourish.
What a beautiful conversation.
Phew, so the dead silence wasn't like, God, she's weird. Okay. I get that a lot, sorry.
I think the beauty of the space we're trying to create here is it's a bunch of us who have gotten that a lot. And when we're together, we're not so crazy. Or we're super crazy, but in a good way.
I just tried to tag a bunch of you, but I didn't know everyone's name or. Anyways, I'm just trying to promote our group on Facebook. And I made an image, which kind of sucks. I mean, because this is not my thing, but at least so something is there, so I can start inviting my friends into the group, and there's something to kind of look at. And I hope someone else can make that nicer.
My name on Facebook is Denise Satori Aurora. And that might change, but Denise Aurora will remain. So Denise Satori Aurora, if you'd like to find me, I'll go in. I also do make images, and I'm making an image for a group called the Global Healing Summit right now, in exchange for them helping me get myself out there a little bit further in with my creations, and also because I'm really into the global healing. So maybe, but you have some images too, Jamin, right? You look like you're a creator on level.
Yeah, we have some lots of images for lots of different things. So let me know what you'd like, and I'll hook you up.
Denise, I can't find you.
Cesari, I just became friends with Nolan and Jackie and I'm sorry, I don't know how to say Imre's name. Maybe I'll look for you.
I hope you don't mind. I shared a link to your page in the chat.
Oh, that's fine. I'm finding Cesari right now, so I found you, Cesari, if you accept.
Oh, Satori. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, works at Mercy for Animals. Is that you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as as I went to a little bit of a break and taking a few phone calls, and obviously without getting frustrated and losing my center and my inner peace, I got on the phone with other people running for legislation, and I was telling them the way I feel about how other countries are suffering this pandemic and also have big concerns with the whole climate change. And obviously, two of them, they responded and they said, you know, obviously it's going to take a long time for our governments to disattach from that greed and that ego, because it's been there for such a long period of time. that it's just hard to disattach from that. So I was here contemplating and meditating over, so how do we resolve one thing and then get to the other one? Because everything seemed so deep and so mindfulness when we were at the beginning of this, back in February when we started the block party. And then all of a sudden this virus came in and we're like, oh my gosh, now we have another thing to worry about on. One of the things that I know that we've had spoke before and we contemplated it to offer free food, free, I know, Jim, and you told me about this place that you opened up in California where they offer plant-based foods to the most vulnerable. And I'm assuming to any kind of people. But as of now, with the coronavirus and just people just getting so concerned about going grocery shopping and getting infected, because we know that a lot of people are very reckless. Then I came across this website that I shared right here where they're actually offering grocery shopping and meals for people during the quarantine. And I'm sitting here thinking, why don't we do the same thing? Just do it in a plant-based way. Offer grocery shopping for people, hire delivery drivers like Uber Eats, maybe Uber Eats can be hired for this type of things if we don't want to be out there on the road. I just don't know here in the United States how hard it is to be able to do this type of collaboration. I know in Mexico, come on, yeah, there's a business open in every corner. They don't ask for too much things like they do here, a lot of regulations here in the United States. So something that I guess it was crossing through my mind, and it's a big solution. I know Sailesh, he's been contemplated and having the local vegan restaurants open up to the public and prepare to them healthy meals. But I know this will get harder as maybe regulations start to being a little bit more strict regarding physical distancing. So the only way out right now is basically going to be everybody at home, and most likely everything is going to have to be ordered online.
Right. And beyond the model that we're all used to of like Uber Eats or whatever, you order something, the driver goes, picks it up, and goes and drops it off at your place. What would be vastly more efficient and vastly safer is if we had the organized preparation of large volumes of vegan food to be delivered neighborhood by neighborhood. So we go and drop off a pallet-sized quantity of food, boom, right at the entrance to a given neighborhood, and the neighbors will already be organized with appropriate safety standards in terms of gloves, masks, whatever. There'll be standards for that. So it's not like everybody just makes it up according to what occurs to them. But they follow the standards, and we have provisioning of those materials. Let's say there's one person who delivers the food to every house in a neighborhood. They get a suit, they get gloves, they get masks, they get what they need to do that. And so we centralize the whole thing, have it totally sanitized and standardized, instead of having 100 zillion, Uber Eats drivers going around and coughing into their whatever they're about to deliver to the door, and following the model of capitalism. No, we standardize it, we centralize it, and we do it. That's the answer, right? And that,
where do we start though? How do we start doing this?
we just did. The starting point is right here, right now. in the conversation where we talk about it and build a community, start to build a community around it. Because here's the thing, and I go back to the stages, the 3 major stages of implementation. Stage 1 is exponentiate the collective superintelligence, right? That's what we're doing right now. That's what we were talking about with Denise and with the Block Party and building out the network and the Facebook page, Cesari and all this. So that's what we're doing right now. As this really gets substantial, the collective superintelligence, then we go on to stage 2, which is the application of this super powerful collective superintelligence to stopping the coronavirus. Perhaps the most important vector for stopping the coronavirus is the delivery of vegan foods in a safe way to all people, period. Right? Now, there will be the households that say, hey, look, we've got plenty of foods stored away. We don't need your vegan food. Thank you very much. You know, give it to someone who needs it more. Fine, no problem. Right? But at least make the offer to all people. You can stay home. We'll bring you your food. Chill out, stay home. We'll bring you your food, and that's how we're going to stop the virus. So that's stage 2, stop the coronavirus. And stage 3 is cool the planet with SRM, which we need to do now doubly fast, given that we're losing global dimming. Going on mute. Does that help? So see, stage 1, but we got it, but bam, 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 there's an order to this, right? And the stage that we're in right now is exponentiating the collective superintelligence.
Yeah, definitely. I completely understand. I mean, the more people we are here, the more activity there is, and the more ideas and the more of us getting together, putting this in practice. Jamin, as far as the SRM, now I know there's studies that are showing that pollution is, it's like the pollution amount is dropping due to people just doing the quarantine. It seems like the whole environment scenario, it's benefiting a lot from us staying away from what we have been damaging for such a long time. Even though we are still practicing these, is the SRM something that still has to be done in an emergency?
Yes, and because we're not emitting as much pollution as we used to be, it actually makes the SRM far more urgent and not less urgent. And here's why. Okay? Of the pollution that we're emitting, the dirtiest pollution emits particulates, right? Think like an old coal-burning power plant that's burning high sulfur coal. It's emitting not just CO2 and other gases, but it's also emitting solid particles, very tiny particles, but they're still solid. They're not gas, right? Those particles up in the atmosphere reflect a portion of the sunlight back into space. So the particles become like tiny little mirrors reflecting sunlight back into space. That's actually a good thing. The fact that they're reflecting sunlight back into space. They're cooling the planet. That's what's called the global dimming effect. The global dimming effect is keeping us cool, artificially cool. If you reduce those dirty emissions, even by 20%, and I think we've probably easily reduced them 20% by now, Professor Guy McPherson has predicted, based on studies of this, that if you reduce particulate emissions by 20%, we'll see a spike in global average temperature of 1 degree centigrade in a matter of weeks. So the fact that we're polluting less now actually is accelerating the planetary overheating problem. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And I didn't even thought about that before.
And see, the greenhouse gases that are responsible for the overheating in the first place. Those are gases, not solids, gases, two different things. The greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere have accumulated over decades, actually centuries, and will take centuries to be resequestered in an optimistic scenario. And so stopping all emissions now does not impact immediately how much greenhouse gases we have in the atmosphere. There's still a ton of it up there. It takes centuries to go away, right? And so the more noticeable effect is actually the loss of global dimming, which is causing the temperatures to rise. So it actually increases the urgency with which we need to do SRM. It's more urgent than it was 2 months ago.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so, but all of that simply increases the overall urgency for us to, number one, exponentiate collective superintelligence, make that happen, then stop the coronavirus in parallel with ending hunger and cooling the planet. So we have to do a whole bunch of things in parallel now. Because ending hunger and stopping the coronavirus go hand in hand. Those two now go hand in hand. Oh, and the third is the world going vegan. That's the way that the world is going to go vegan. We're going to deliver nutritious vegan foods to every household all around the world. That's what the governments of the world should be focused on right now. It's obvious, right? And so we end hunger, we go vegan, and we stop the coronavirus all in one master stroke. We have the resources, we have the capabilities, let's do it. And the more centralized, the better.
Are you guys transmitting this live through Facebook right now, or is it just YouTube?
We're actually not broadcasting through any channel. All we're doing is recording it, and then we'll post it on YouTube once it's done.
Okay.
I'd just like to add there to that topic of conversation about the SRM and some of the positive points that were picked up earlier on the like some people see some of the positive points of society coming to a kind of a slowdown and seeing like fish returning to streams and you know, dolphins coming up the canals in Venice and things like that. And although people may see them as positives, they're actually big indicators of how much our polluting has kind of ceased alone, which gives us a very big indicator of how much we're not pumping into the air at the moment because of you know, planes being grounded and everything else. But yeah, just on the global warming or the global dimming side of it, there's an example of it. China was probably the first affected with the coronavirus, and therefore the first to shut down, and that was January on. And it's been only a couple of months now since they shut down everything in their industries and everything. And already there's, I don't know if any of you copped, there's a post up on YouTube there, I spotted it this morning. There's massive forest fires now in Changxing in China. They're battling massive forest fires that just broke out there all of a sudden. Like, so that could be a sign of the global dimming already taking effect there in China. Like, so it's just there. While we see positive effects with nature, being able to repopulate areas that otherwise would have been impossible for them because of the human population or because of the human contribution to polluting. That may seem like a positive at the moment, but it is actually an indicator of what's fucking coming, really. Like, sorry about the language, but that's the point I'm making. So it just shows the matter of urgency that we have to, you know, that we have to think about all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bottom line is that all these problems are interrelated, and we're just in a really vicious death spiral right now. I mean, I hate to be negative. I hate to, but I mean, those very words are chosen to help just sound the alarm. An alarm needs to be sounded, right? That this is not optional, and that we urgently need to exponentiate the collective superintelligence, and that you, whoever you are watching this or hearing about it, you can join. In fact, we urgently need you here. Phase 1, exponentiate the collective superintelligence. Phase 2, apply it to simultaneously stop the coronavirus, end hunger, and go vegan. Bam, bam, bam. Those 3 happen at once. Stage 3, cool the planet through SRM. And all 3 of those need to happen urgently.
And SRM being supplier relationship management, is that correct? That's like one thing that you're familiar with?
No, it definitely does stand for that. But the use of the acronym that I'm using presently is solar radiation management, cooling the planet by reflecting a significant portion of the sunlight back into space from select surfaces of the Earth, notably the Arctic ice and very important, crucially importantly, the waters surrounding the Arctic to refreeze the Arctic, and then over huge bodies, huge portions of the oceans of the world, and certain desert portions, but I think that's going to be a much smaller player. But let's just take oceans. Sunlight that lands on the ocean, 90% of it gets absorbed. It's dark blue ocean seawater. The oceans are bearing the brunt of planetary overheating. That's the big heat sink, is the oceans. And the hotter oceans with heat concentrated around the poles is melting the Arctic ice and Antarctica, which are our natural mirrors for reflecting sunlight back into space. So our natural mirrors are shrinking. We need to buttress those with human-made mirrors deployed, again, all around the world to reflect that sunlight back into space and thus cool the planet in a way that's completely independent of all the good efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and sequester greenhouse gases. But it's just particularly urgent now that we're losing global dimming, as I was talking about a few minutes ago. I hope you caught that. I don't know if you caught that, but basically the soot particles emitted from coal burning power plants and other particulates like from diesel trucks, which are, those particulates hang out in the atmosphere for a period of weeks before they fall to the ground, statistically. And while they're hanging out up there, they reflect sunlight back into space. And that actually cools the planet. It keeps us cooler than what we would be. We're still overheating, but we're not overheating as fast as we would be were it not for those particulates. So because we're reducing particulate emissions, now that the economy is contracting / collapsing, we have the planet is now overheating at a much greater rate, and that's what James was pointing to with the wildfires in China.
So Jamin, can you walk through explicitly why a reduction in these emissions, because the logic I default to is, okay, these emissions were a huge part of the problem in the first place, right? So taking them away, how is it that they caused the problem and then taking them away makes it even worse?
Yeah, great question. So how they caused the problem in the first place. So first of all, there's really 2 components to the emissions. There's gases and there's solids, right? The gases are the greenhouse gases. The solids are the particulate emissions. And they have 2 totally different impacts and 2 totally different time scales. So that's going to be the key to analyzing this. Greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane are the biggies, but even H2O is a greenhouse gas. These greenhouse gases have a very, very long time scale in the atmosphere before they get reabsorbed, just statistically. And that's measured in the decades to centuries. I think centuries in the case of CO2. And so what that means is whatever you put up into the atmosphere in terms of greenhouse gases, it's going to be there for a long time, right? So we've been dumping and dumping and dumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and they're going to be there for a long, long, long time, okay? And that's, the greenhouse gases are responsible for the greenhouse effect, which operates on infrared radiation. So there's two, just like I said, there's two kinds of emissions we need to worry about: gases and particulates, gases and solids, right? There are two kinds of radiation that we need to be concerned about to understand this picture. One is visible spectrum, primarily visible spectrum radiation coming from the sun. That's light you can see. And the second is infrared radiation that you cannot see. Longer wavelength, shorter frequency, lower frequency, and it's like, you know, wolves can see it because they hunt at night, right? They need to be able to see body heat, which is emitted as infrared. And
just to be clear, the infrared is emitted after sunlight is already absorbed.
Exactly. So a rock sitting on a beach absorbs sunlight, that's visible spectrum, and it heats up and it heats up, and as it's heating, the more it heats up, the more it emits infrared, invisible infrared. And that infrared radiation gets trapped by the greenhouse gases. So think of the greenhouse gases as a blanket, right? And we keep thickening that blanket over time, making it thicker and thicker and thicker, and therefore it's trapping more and more of this infrared that's trying to escape. The thicker and thicker greenhouse gas blanket is trapping that in, heating the planet. So that's the primary mechanism of planetary overheating. Greenhouse gases, that's one of the two kinds of emissions, goes into the atmosphere and traps infrared that's trying to escape. It lets all the visible spectrum through, right? But it doesn't let the infrared back out. Okay. Now, countering that effect is the effect of global dimming. So we've talked about gases, now let's talk about solids. The solid particles that are emitted have a much shorter duration in the atmosphere, right? So because the greenhouse gases stay up there for decades to centuries, you can completely stop emission of greenhouse gases today, completely stop it, and we'll still have a super extra thick greenhouse gas blanket for decades to come, if not centuries, okay? That's just the nature of it. Okay, now the particulates emissions, on the other hand, the emissions of solids, it's a whole different game, okay? Basically, what we're doing with that, here's how to think about it. We're spewing into the atmosphere a whole bunch of tiny little mirrors, solid mirrors, but they're so solid. You ever notice, like on a sunny afternoon inside of a dusty house or building, the sunlight's coming through the window and you see all these particulates in the air? Those are dust particles. Those are solid. They're not gases. They're solid, but they're so tiny that it almost seems like they don't have any weight. Well, that's because the effect of the turbulence in the air has a much bigger impact on the fate of one of those particles in the next half second than gravity. Gravity is almost irrelevant. Well, almost is not zero. And over time, these particles do find their way down, right? It's just that they do a lot of loop-de-loops before they hit the ground, Okay, so they'll stay in the atmosphere for a matter of weeks. Okay, they are little mirrors. They reflect sunlight back into space. So it's kind of like the dirty global economy is spewing out SRM mirrors all the time. And then after a few weeks of doing their job up in the atmosphere, they fall to the ground. So when you reduce dirty emissions, you're reducing SRM, right? And if you reduce SRM, you're going to heat the place up. It's just how it works. Or you're going to heat it up faster than it's already being heated up, right? So the reduction in emissions has a negligible short-term impact on overheating from greenhouse gases. For us to really feel the impact of that, we'd have to wait a long time to feel the impact of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But if we reduce the emissions of the particulates, because they only hang out in the atmosphere for a few weeks, if you eliminate particulate emissions, within a few weeks, there will be no more particulates in the sky, and we lose all of that SRM. That's why, paradoxically, but honest to God, reducing emissions, particularly dirty emissions, is a great way to heat up the planet in the very short term, which is something we cannot afford. But it's happening. So what do? We accelerate our efforts, and we be very disciplined about stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1, exponentiate collective superintelligence. But first, did I answer your questions, Nolan? Did I make all that clear? Awesome. Since we're on it, does anyone else have any questions about greenhouse gas emissions, particulate emissions, the greenhouse effect versus global dimming, etc.?
I think it would be great to have that, what you just said, as a YouTube all by itself.
All right, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. In fact, let me stop this recording right here to make the editing process easier.